There is no doubt that this summit has been a success for him and for him. Will it though be a success for the economy? Nick Robinson, BBC News at the G20 summit in London.
One by one, the G20 leaders have lined up to say why their communiqué will help to bring about recovery. But, as we've heard, even Barack Obama has admitted this summit alone is not enough. Our economics editor, Stephanie Flanders, has been picking through the detail. She reports now on what it all means.
It started as a credit crunch. Now it's a recession that's hurting people in every corner of the globe. Millions have lost their home or their job. There are another 4,000 job losses announced today in the UK alone.
They came here to East London to fix the global economy, and this is what they came up with, a 9-page plan of action full of promises and commitments. They've promised here to do all that it takes to stimulate their own economies this year and next. They've promised to build a stronger global financial system. But most striking of all, they've promised $1.1 trillion for the global economy. What's behind that big headline number? Well, there's an extra $500 billion for the IMF to lend to countries in trouble. There's an extra $250 billion in special drawing rights, in effect a cheap overdraft facility for all the countries in the world. Another $250 billion in new trade financing money, and another $100 billion for lending to the poorest countries.
What does all that mean? Well, the $500 billion in new lending means the IMF will have enough money to support countries in Eastern Europe who are now being hit by the crisis. That should be good for us, especially since those nations have borrowed quite a lot from our banks.
What we hope this will do is give confidence to the financial markets, to policymakers around the world, and to ordinary people that the international system, and the IMF in particular, has the resources available to deal with any eventuality.
The new $250 billion overdraft will be a cash injection for some, though a lot will go to rich countries who won't take it up. Most important for the poorest will be the new lending targeted to them. Some of the details there are still being worked out. Global trade has collapsed in the past year. Gordon Brown said supporting it was a top priority here. That $150 billion will help some exporters get credit, though much had already been announced. More important is the promise not to turn inward and restrict trade. In Washington last year, these leaders made the same promise, and many have already broken it. The Prime Minister tried to convince us today that that wouldn't happen again.
Action that is protectionist will be named and shamed, if you like, and at the same time, just to push trade forward, we will not only resist protectionist measures, but we will make it possible for people who want to trade, want to export, want to import, want lines of credit for trading to actually have the resources that are sadly lacking at the moment.
The paper promises were popular. The test will be what leaders do when they get home. Not just on trade, but on cleaning up their banks and supporting their economies as well.
We heard so much about a global fiscal stimulus in the lead up to this summit. In the end, it was almost a footnote. There was a commitment here to do what it takes to support all of these economies, but no new numbers attached. And certainly President Obama was keen to say this summit was about a lot more than new budgets.
Russia, Brazil, South Africa, a president of the United States named Obama, negotiating this swiftly on behalf of fixing the global economy, you would have said, that's crazy.
Yet it did happen. President Obama has now left the building. The agreement isn't all fluff and fudge. We can't know whether it will save the world, but it should do it some good. Now all the leaders have to do is explain what it means to people at home.
Our economics editor